What's good, everybody? We are back with another Call of Duty mobile video. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. So today, we're going to be doing something I haven't done in a really long time. This is actually one of the very first videos that I made for Call of Duty mobile way back in the day when there were not nearly as many guns in the game. So this is going to be a lot more interesting, but we're going to be ranking every gun in the game. I'm going to try to make this as short as I possibly can, while at the same time giving the exact reasons for why I'm ranking these guns where they are. The main criteria are definitely going to be how good they are in their prime range, their use in the competitive scene, also to a certain degree, the amount of versatility they have, and also how they compare to other guns that are at the top of that same category. So all those will be combined when I'm putting this list together. If you guys do enjoy the video, and if you want more helpful Call of Duty mobile videos, I post those daily on the channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Also make sure to drop a like, but without any more talking, we're going to go ahead and hop into the video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you can see here we've got every single gun in the game on our tier list. I'm going to go ahead and hop into it. If I offend you by making this list, if I put your favorite gun down in the D tier, just know I mean this as inoffensively as possible. This is all supposed to be really, really objective, so if your favorite gun is down in the D tier list, maybe give one of the S or A tier guns a try. Might help you out a little bit. We're going to just go from top to bottom. AK-117 is going to be our first one. I'm going to put the AK-117, I could go in either C or B tier. The main thing about it is it just doesn't really have a prime range. It has a decent range on it, but once you get back to that range, the horizontal recoil starts to affect you a good bit and just makes it difficult. It doesn't kill very fast at close range because of that. I'm putting it in C. Probably going to do the same for the AK-47. I know that it has the potential to 3-tap if you land a headshot, but against teammates, or rather people on the opposing team that have good movement, you're just not going to be able to consistently land good headshots. You need to be able to have that quick time to kill, especially for something that has as much recoil as it does. Next up, we got the UL-736. To be honest, I'm probably going to end up putting a lot of LMGs down in D tier just because the LMGs are not meta. They're not really supposed to be meta, you know? The UL-736, it just doesn't really thrive anywhere. It's not great at long range, not great at short range. Just not a great gun. I would say it's toward the top of the D tier, but still in the D tier. Next, we got the Arctic 50. I'm going to put that in the C tier. You do have the ability to one-tap anywhere on the body with it because of stopping power, but that also gives you crazy slow movement and ADS time, making it a lot less viable than any other sniper. Next, we got the ASM-10. I would consider this to be a top 2 AR in the game, and I would say we're really in an AR/shotgun meta right now. Because of that, I am going to put that up in the S tier. I would actually argue it could be the best gun in the game, but that's a conversation for a later date. LK-24, I would say, is actually one of the more underrated guns in the game. I'm going to put it in A tier. A lot of people are probably going to be surprised by that, but with the right attachments on the LK-24, it's an absolute laser beam. It has decent 4-tap range. It's an all-around good gun. It can have good mobility as well. So I would say this is one of the best ARs, and like I said, lots of good ARs in the game right now. Next up, we got the Buy 15. This is the go-to shotgun for pro players in Call of Duty Mobile right now. We've seen it taking over pretty much every region. Because the Buy 15 is so good and because the amount of range that it has, I'm not going to be putting any other shotguns up in the S tier. That doesn't mean those shotguns aren't good, but they're just not as good as the Buy 15. Next up, we got the Chickum. That's probably going to go all the way at the bottom of D tier. Yes, you can one burst with it, but if you're going to go for like a one-shot, you might as well just use a shotgun, you know? It doesn't have great range, doesn't have great mobility. There's nothing that really stands out about it. Chickum just sucks. Chopper, surprisingly enough, an LMG making it up into the S tier. So the Chopper, especially with the heavy handle, becomes versatile in a lot of situations. Because it's an LMG, you can wallbang a lot of things. You got 100 bullets to work with. That heavy handle is an absolute must-use, but when you got that on there, the Chopper becomes pretty deadly. Next up, we got the Cordite. I'm going to put that down in the C tier as well. You know what? We'll put it up toward the top of C tier, but C tier no less. It's just been nerfed a lot. You have the ability to give it some good options, but doesn't move too terribly fast for an SMG. Honestly, plays more like an AR than it does an SMG. And with how good ARs are right now, just can't justify putting it higher than I do. Next, we got the DLQ. I've got that in the A tier. It is still a really good sniper, but it just can't quite compare to another sniper that I'm going to be putting on this list that I'll be talking about. It has some of the best lethal zones in the game, but definitely lacks in the mobility category, and because of that, we've got it in the A tier instead of the S tier. The DRH, I would argue, is the other AR that's going to go in our top 2 assault rifles in the game. Very good time to kill. Usually you're going to be able to 3-tap, especially if you're hitting those upper body shots. That is an absolute must, and obviously you do need to use the OTM mag. A lot of people don't like it for some reason, but if you build it well for ADS bullet spread, it is an absolute laser. Next up, we got the Echo. I'm going back and forth on whether or not I want to put the Echo in A or B. I'm going to put it in B just because it lacks versatility. In its prime range, it is extremely effective and can absolutely mow through players inside of a hard point. But like I said, you're not going to be able to take any long-range gunfights with it. In the hands of a really skilled player that knows how to play his angle, this is really, really deadly, but just can't quite justify putting it up into the A tier. Next up, we got the Fennec. This is another one. It's very similar to the Echo in that in its prime range, it's really good. But it's not very usable outside of super close range. This could very well change whenever we do get the Akimbo perk, which I believe is going to be coming tomorrow night. But as of right now, it's not really usable outside of close range unless you're going up against somebody with absolutely terrible aim, which we're typically not banking on when we're ranking these guns. Because of that, I've got it down there. After that, we've got the GKS. I've got to put this in either B or C tier. I'm probably going to go toward the bottom of B. It is a beam, but the thing about the GKS is it's basically an SMG, or it's basically an assault rifle, but it can't wallbang. So it's very similar in its damage. It's very similar in its damage profile to the LK24, but because it's an SMG, you can't wallbang a lot of those materials that you can with an LK24. It doesn't have great strafing or great mobility. Because of that, I've got it in the B tier. Next up, we got the HBR. It's going to be one of many guns that I probably got down in the C tier. This is one of those guns that just really lacks an identity. It plays the same as a lot of assault rifles, which are decent at a whole lot of ranges, but they're not great at any one range. You're not going to win a ton of long-range gunfights with this against some other options on this list. You're not going to outgun a whole lot of other guns in close-range gunfights, especially like SMGs and shotguns. So because of that, I do have it down in the C tier. Next, we got the HG40. I would still consider this a B tier gun, even though it got a really big nerf. It can still be viable. You still have the ability to 4-tap with it, and the thing that made it really good was before was you could 4-tap anywhere on the body. You got to be a lot more accurate right now, but it does still have decent mobility, and it has decent range as well. Because of that, I do have it up in the B tier. Next up, we got the HS0405. I'm going to put this down in D tier. Just the rate of fire on it makes it almost useless. If you miss one shot, pretty good chance you're dying afterwards. It doesn't have better range than the Buy 15. It doesn't really have better anything. There's just not much of a reason to use the HS0405. I'm going to put the HS2126 down there as well. I know my friend D Hitman will probably be very hurt by that. He loves the HS2126, but it really just doesn't compare in regards to utility alongside a lot of those other guns. Next up, we got the HVK. I am actually going to be putting 3 ARs up in the S tier. Like I said, we're in an assault rifle meta right now because of the new heavy caliber attachment that we've gotten for the HVK. The time to kill on this thing, especially if you're landing upper body shots, is absolutely ridiculous. Now, you do only have 25 bullets in that magazine, and you're going to run through them pretty quick. So you need to be accurate, but the time to kill on this thing is stupid fast. Because of that, I do still have it up in S tier. Next up, we got the ICR. I'm going to be putting that down in A tier. ICR is very, very low recoil. It's very controllable. The one thing about it is that it has a lot of aim shake, which is not something you can necessarily see on the base stats, but it hurts its accuracy overall. I would honestly consider putting it down into the B tier. I might actually have to put it down into B tier. Looking at the guns that it's next to up in the A tier, I just can't justify it. It is definitely still a good gun and can be an absolute laser beam, but not quite where it needs to be to make it up top. Next up, we got the Kilo Bolt. Kilo Bolt's fun. It's not practical. It doesn't have great lethal zones. You have to throw a scope on, which means you're automatically using up one attachment slot. I would put it in C or D. I might put it at like the bottom of C, but just not a whole lot that's great about the Kilo Bolt. Next, we've got the KN44. KN44 is basically the LK, but with more horizontal recoil, so because of that, I can't put it in the same category as the LK. Next up, it looks like I accidentally uploaded 2 pictures of the LK, so we'll just have to leave one of those where it is. We do have the KRM, which I'm going to put up in the A tier, just barely worse than the By 15, but it doesn't have quite as much range. Still a really good gun. It's the KRM is the By 15 as the DLQ is to the Locust, pretty much, which is the reason I have it down in the A tier. We do have the LK, which I already sorted. I've got the Locust up in the S tier. Best sniper in the game. It's got good mobility for a sniper. With stopping power, it has the same lethal zones as the DLQ, and it's got better attachment options as well. So overall, this is going to be the sniper that you're going to see pro players going to the majority of the time. Next up, we've got the M16, just a terrible gun. I don't like burst guns in general. Yes, it's possible to one burst, but it's unlikely, especially going up against a moving target, that you're going to be able to do that. Just because of that, I've got to put it down into the D tier. We got the M21, which you guys, I feel like I don't have to explain a whole lot of why the M21's in D tier. You can't one tap except for to the head, so because of that, it's just never going to be a viable option, especially compared to other sniper rifles in the game. M4 LMG is going to be another one of those D tier guns. Most LMGs in the game are just not good right now, and even though you can make this kind of fast time to kill, it's still going to have slow ADS time, and because of that, it's just not as usable as a lot of those other options. Next up, we got the M4, which I would argue is actually the worst assault rifle in the game, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it down in D. Average recoil, very slow time to kill. There's nothing great about it. M4 absolutely at the bottom of the list. Not necessarily bottom of the list overall, but definitely D tier. Next up, we got the Man-O-War. There might be some people that question this one. The Man-O-War has not really been used in competitive play at all across any of the regions. The main reason for that is there's no real way to make it have good mobility and good ADS time. If you do make it have average mobility and average ADS time, you lose out on the big benefits that you get of the range boost that it's able to have. So you got to really choose. If you want to have the range boost, it turns into an LMG. If you want the mobility and the ADS time, you don't have the range boost that you could potentially have on it. So because of that, it is a really good gun. Not as fast on time to kill as the ASM-10 and the DRH. Because of that, I've got it in A instead of S. Next up, we got the MSMC. This is one that it's very similar to the Fennec. It's got a very fast time to kill. At the same time, it's going to struggle at long range. I would say you're more able to take mid-range fights with the MSMC than you are the Fennec, but it does have, I believe, a slightly slower time to kill. They're pretty similar damage profile guns. Next up, we do have the NA45. I'm going to put it in C tier just because you can be really terrible at Call of Duty Mobile and still manage to get some kills with this just because it's basically an RPG. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of the C tier. I can't put it in D tier because it's good enough that it annoys the crap out of me in rank sometimes, and people just get lucky kills, but ultimately it's not a skilled weapon. We're also going to be putting the Outlaw in C tier. It scopes quickly. You can make a crazy quick scope Outlaw. You're never going to be able to make the lethal zones good, and because of that, I do have it in the C tier. Same for the PDW. Can kill fast at very close range. Doesn't have a whole lot of versatility. Damage drop off big time. It's just kind of an average SMG. The Pharaoh, just out of respect for the fact that you can one tap with it and it's got good mobility, I'm going to put it in C tier, but overall I would not consider it to be one of the better SMGs in the game. If you have crazy good accuracy and can close gaps really well, you can one tap and make it effective, but at that point you might as well just use a shotgun, so why use it? Next up, we got the QQ9, the only SMG that I have in the S tier. It's got a fast time to kill, especially with the addition of the 10mm magazine that was recently added for it. So because of that, I do have it in the S tier, and you can take some mid-range gunfights with it. Longer range than you'd be able to take with a shotgun, which is a nice thing, and it's more forgiving because you can miss the first shot, not have to worry about pumping the shotgun afterwards. Razorback, D tier. It just doesn't kill very fast. Yes, it 4-taps, but it's got a slow rate of fire and kind of a Razorback pattern in regards to the recoil that makes it very difficult for it to be viable. RPD is going to go down in D tier as well. It's slow, it's an LMG, doesn't have a fast time to kill. You might be able to get some frags at long range just because you got a huge magazine, but not a viable gun. We're going to put the RUS up in A tier. I think this is going to be the kind of up-and-coming option to replace the HG40 as far as a mid-range SMG goes. It only 4-taps at up to like 3 meters or something like that, so you're not going to win a ton of close-range gunfights, but it has very low recoil, very controllable. Definitely a really beginner-friendly gun that you could give a try if you wanted to. S36 is going to go down in D tier. Like I said, most of the LMGs are going to go down there just because mobility is such a big factor, and if these guns were killing like crazy fast, it would be one thing, but none of the LMGs really kill crazy fast, and the versatility of the chopper is the only reason that I've got it up in the S tier. Next up, we've got the Striker. Y'all know the Striker's trash. Like, no range. There's no way to make it good. You can make it one tap at 5 meters if you build it all the way out for ADS bullet spread, but just a terrible gun. Then we got the Type 25. This is going to go in either B tier or A tier. I think I'm going to put it in B. With stopping power, it can kill really quickly, but on a gun like that, you want to be able to move well, and there's no stock attachment, which really holds back the Type 25 because you can't get the mobility that you would like to. So because of that, I've got it in B tier, and then last up, we've got the XPR. I'm going to put it in C tier just because with stopping power, you can extend the lethal zone a little bit. And you can actually, it's got really good mobility and really good ADS time, so if you're crazy accurate, this thing can be super deadly, but overall, not going to be a viable option. So this is our final for everything that we've got for our Call of Duty mobile gun tier list. If you got any questions, put them down in the comments. Like I said, I'm trying not to make the video too long, so we're going to cut it off right there. I'll also be sure to include the link to the tier list maker if you guys want to make your own and put it on my Call of Duty mobile subreddit, or not my Call of Duty, my personal subreddit for Bobby Reacts. I'll react to some of your tier lists in a video tomorrow as well. But that's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to the squad if you guys haven't already. And I'll see you next time.